What's up, YouTube? This Petey. We back with another episode with Picks with Petey. And today I'm going over Week 9 NCAA Top 25 football. First, I went 19 for 27 in Week 8. That was pretty good. I'm not going to go over all the picks again, but 19 for 27, that was pretty good. Hopefully you all watched the last video. If you can, like, share, subscribe. Now let's get to it. First game is tonight's game. It's 16 ranked SMU versus Houston. They saying SMU is going to win by 14. The over under for the game is 65 and a half. I like the over for the game for the 65 and a half. Next up is Apache State versus South Alabama. The over under for the game is 52. They saying Apache State is going to win by 27. I'm taking South Alabama to cover the 27 against Apache State. Next is a good game. 13th ranked Wisconsin versus number 3 ranked Ohio State. They're saying Ohio State is going to win by 14 and a half. The over under for the game is 50 and a half. I'm taking the 50 and a half. Next is Oklahoma. They ranked number 5, by the way. They saying they're going to win by 23 and a half versus Kansas State. The over-under for the game is 57 and a half. I'm taking the over 57 and a half. Oklahoma versus Kansas State. Next is 20 ranked Iowa. They saying they're going to win by 10 and a half versus Northwestern. The over-under for the game is 37 and a half. I'm taking Northwestern to cover the 10 and a half versus Iowa. Excuse me. Then we have 6th ranked Penn State saying they're going to beat Michigan State by 6. The over-under for the game is 43 and a half. I believe it's going to be a defensive battle, so I'm taking the score to go under the 43 and a half. Next is Oklahoma State versus Iowa State. Iowa is currently ranked at number 23. They're saying Iowa State is going to beat Oklahoma State by 10 and a half. The over-under for the game is 63 and a half. I like Iowa State to cover the 10 and a half versus, Oklahoma State. Sorry about that. I'm taking Oklahoma State to cover the 10 and a half versus Iowa. Next game is ranked number 9 Auburn versus number 2 ranked LSU. They saying LSU is going to win by 10 and a half. The over-under for that game is 58 and a half. I'll be taking my prediction to be the 58 and a half to go over. So I'm going with the over for that game. Next is Maryland versus number ranked 17 Minnesota. They saying Minnesota will win by 16 and a half points. The over under for the game is 57 and a half. I'm going with the over 57 and a half. Then comes is ranked number 15 Texas. They saying Texas is going to win by 1 versus TSU. The over under for the game is 59. I like the game to go under 59 points. Then we have Arkansas versus number 1 ranked Alabama. Tua is out because of his ankle. They saying Alabama is going to win by 32 and a half. And the over-under for the game is 55 and a half. I like that game to go under, and I'm also going to use that in one of my teasers I'm going to be doing personally. Because these just my prediction picks. These ain't. Then we have Boston College versus Clemson. Clemson is ranked number 4. They saying Clemson is going to win by 34. The over-under for the game is 58 and a half. I'm going to take Clemson to cover the 34 points. Next up is ranked number 8 Notre Dame. They saying they're going to win by 1 versus ranked number 19 Michigan. The over-under for the game is 51. I like the score to go under 51 points. I'm taking the under in the Notre Dame versus Michigan game. Here comes 24th ranked Arizona State. They giving up 4 points, saying they're going to beat LSU by the 4. The over-under for the game is 55 and a half. I like the score to go over 55 and a half. Next is California versus Utah. Utah is currently ranked number 12. They saying Utah is going to beat California by 3 touchdowns, 21 points. The over-under for the game is 37 and a half. I'm taking California to cover the 21 points. Last game, for NCAA top 25. And the rankings is Washington State versus number 11 Oregon. They're saying Oregon is going to win by 2 touchdowns. That's 14 points. Over under for the game is 64.5. I take the 64.5 to go over. I'm going to go over the picks one more time quickly for you all. I'm taking SMU versus Houston over 65.5. I'm taking South Alabama to cover the 27 points versus Apache State. I'm taking Wisconsin versus Ohio State to go over 50.5. Then I'm taking Oklahoma versus Kansas State to go over 57.5. Then I'm taking Northwestern to cover the 10.5 versus Iowa. Then I'm taking Penn State versus Michigan State game to go under 43.5. Next, I'll be taking Oklahoma State to cover the 10.5 versus Iowa State. Then I'm taking the over in the Auburn versus LSU game, which is 58.5. Then I'm gonna be taking the over in the Maryland versus Minnesota game, that is 57.5. Then I'm taking the Texas versus TSU game to go under 59.5. Then I'm taking the game Alabama versus Arkansas game to go under 55.5, and I'm also using that in a teaser. Then I'm taking Clemson to beat Boston College by the 34 points. Then I'm taking the under in the Michigan versus Notre Dame game, that's 51. I'm taking the UCLA versus Arizona State game to go over 55.5. I'm taking California to cover the 21 points versus Utah. And I'm taking the Washington State versus Oregon game to go over 64.5. And there you go. That's picks with Petey. Your money stay humble. Hope you all guys like my predictions. And I'll see you next time.